because it's not just my neighborhood, it's all of us who are ratepayers. Now, the other thing that I'm observing, because I have some friends who are in the solar industry, Kauai is a electrical cooperative. It is owned by the ratepayers, and they have a permit process, and they are going to be installing 6,000 solar panels. And it's going to take a couple of years to get that installation installed. The ratepayers have agreed to an increased rate for their electricity for the next 10 years. But beyond that 10 years, their rates are going to fall. Now, we know that you can't generate electricity at night. And I think that what a lot of us consumers are seeing is HELCO or MECO is a profit-making organization, and they have a responsibility to their stockholders. And that is true. But we also need to recognize that the PUC has granted the privilege of these power companies having a monopoly to provide power to the ratepayers. And I think what a lot of people are feeling is there is not a balance between being responsible to the stockholders and having some responsibility to the ratepayers. Because what the ratepayers see is the rates keep going up. And it's kind of an oxymoron in that HELCO has renewable energy, but the rates keep going up. Now, I understand that all the power companies have an obligation to maintain the grid. And this is the first time I've heard about the IRP process, and apparently you have a citizens group who provide input to that. Yeah. And how big, the question I have is how big is that group, and how well is it represent a cross-section of the community? Like, for example, how many of those people are ratepayers?
So there's approximately 68 of them. I think they're appointed by PUC, is that correct? And they represent various disciplines and various counties.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think the PUC ought to be doing that. I think that there ought to be an independent organization soliciting from the various communities that those utilities serve. Mm-hmm. The other thing I find interesting is the Public Utilities Commission. It's my understanding that the members of the Public Utilities Commission are the only commissioners for all the commissions that the state has that are make a salary. In other words, they are paid by the state to be on that commission. And I think a lot of the ratepayers are saying the Public Utilities Commission really represents the industry. And I think what ratepayers are saying is that the consumers should have a voice in the Public Utilities Commission. Now, the fact that you have this IRP process and you presumably have people involved in the IRP process, that does say something if that really represents the ratepayers. So, and I think people are sort of thinking that we've got it backwards here. What we ought to be doing is putting a lot more of our effort into solar. I mean, after all, a lot of this state gets a lot of sun. And that the generation capacity ought to be taking care of the needs of the consumers when that capacity goes down at night. And that's not what we're seeing. Anyway, that's
good. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, Cory, I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Let me find out first, however, if there is anyone in the room who has not yet had an opportunity to speak but would like to speak. Yes. Okay, good. I have two of them. Cory, I'm going to come back to you. Aloha. Can you identify yourself?
I'm Kerri Marks. I'm a ratepayer.
Yes.
As we all are, whether we do or not. And I would like to add to the conversation and respectfully disagree with the folks that are pushing geothermal and biomass as firm power. There's another firm power. I was thrilled to death to see a picture of it on your slide because almost nobody ever mentions it. That's wave power. Wave power is also firm, dispatchable power. It doesn't hurt anybody's house because it's off on the ocean and people don't live out in the ocean. Fish live in the ocean though, and fish like buoys. Fish hang out by buoys, so fishermen like buoys. Lots of fishermen are ratepayers. I'm just saying that you should consider this. I don't like the AKP project. That's the Aina Koa Pono biofuel plant. He didn't say it out loud, but that's what it is. They're going to grow biofuel in the Ka'u Desert. I don't know where they're going to get the water for that, but that's the plan. So, again, thank you for the wave slide. I would love to see that talked about more this year and not just used as window dressing. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. I think Representative Phelan had an op-ed today on wave power. Aloha, sir. Can you identify yourself?
Yes, Nelson Ho.
Aloha.
Aloha. I did want to, because I've just begun looking at the documents that are on the web that Pat and other people had mentioned. I didn't see a real discussion. I only opened a few of the documents and a few of the folders about the externalities that are not yet on the table with regard to geothermal energy. And I think it's Act 97, not Bill 97, that the governor signed, which took away the county's ability to impact and modify geothermal development, and now strictly relies with DLNR, and I guess the PUC in a secondary manner. I think the IRP process, this IRP process, is going to underestimate the controversy and opposition that this next increment of 50 megawatts is going to generate by the community, and that would result in delays in construction and throw off whatever planning is being done by the utilities. So I just wanted to add that comment that an over-reliance on geothermal in this climate, political, governmental, regulatory climate that geothermal is under currently is going to create more obstacles than it will cut red tape. And so I hope that the IRP process takes due note of that as they go forward in their planning. Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you very much. Now, Cory had her hand up, and then David has his, and you have yours. Now, these are all second speakers. We're coming back a second time. So we're giving the opportunity for people who have not yet spoken to speak. But if I don't see your hand go up, then I'm coming back to Cory. Yes? All right. Hello.
Okay. Several comments I'll just run through. Just want to echo Mr. Bidleman's comments about having scientists review any right ideas for how to generate power, because everything's got consequences you couldn't foresee. You know, geothermal, solar, wind can kill birds. So I hope there is some good scientific review of the various options. I also hope that HELCO will look at how to do decentralized power generation before a whole lot of big investment goes into centralized projects, like modernizing fossil fuel plants to meet new environmental regulations, or converting them to biofuels, expansion of geothermal, cable, new biofuel plants, maybe liquefied natural gas infrastructure, and smart grid. Do we really want to invest all that in the existing grid, or do we want to put resources into more decentralized generation? Let's see. I think we should look at maybe there'll be different economic drivers in the future requiring different kinds and amounts of energy. Right now we've got tourism and the military as the major drivers, but suppose we have greater food self-sufficiency and self-sufficiency for other needs. Then maybe we won't need so much military fuel, we won't need all the hotel drivers for the new hotels, won't have so many tour buses, airplanes, cruise ships, container ships. So how will our energy needs change? I'd like to see IRP look at new regulations that we might need. For example, to allow transmission of power across property lines. Maybe a few people want to get together and do a small energy co-op. I can see that option open. I hope we can also look at the basics. Should we be doing DC power instead of AC power for both centralized and distributed generation? I don't pretend to understand this, but it's a matter of going back and looking at the basics. I'd also like to see planning for maybe we should have different ownership and control, as some people have mentioned. Is it best to have our existing for-profit utilities? Should they be owned by government, private for-profit, private non-profit, consumer-owned? Do we want a lot of out-of-state control over our energy sources? Do we want a few people to control energy sources, or big corporations? Do we want some kind of hybrid of all these? And do we want to give the community a say in who owns their energy production? I also wonder, in the medical field, if you want to build a big new diagnostic device, you have to get a certificate of need. When someone looks at it, makes sure that the neighborhood next door doesn't already have one, that you really need one for that area. Maybe we need that for new power generation facilities.
I wonder, what are you reading from?
This is my notes. Some of them I'll hand these in. So you don't have to write everything down. Let's see, finishing up, I'd like to see provisions for encouraging energy conservation through building codes, subdivision covenants, like allowing clotheslines and small houses, zoning and planning, so your work and your shopping are right there, you don't have to drive and use all that gas, keep the lights going so late, better public transportation, street design for more alternative transportation. Let me see. And I'd also like to see us look at teeny tiny energy sources. I've seen experimental flags that just sit on your house and flutter, and you get a little energy from that. Put little paddle wheels in your downspouts, and you can hop on your exercise bike and maybe crank up your battery a little bit. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. David? Is it David Tarniss?
My name is David Tarniss. I wanted to include another firm renewable power source on the list for HELCO to consider. Not just HELCO, but MECO as well, and that is waste to energy. And I bring this up because in the last campaign, both our current mayor and the former mayor were both saying we've got to do something about our problem with solid waste on this island. We don't want to build another landfill, so we're going to do something like a waste to energy project, but not like the one we did before with Hilo December. So it'll be different. Maui County just put out an RFP for a waste to energy project. The challenge is that these are the counties that are putting out RFPs. it's not the utility. And so the utilities, what I'm suggesting is that the utilities work closely with the counties, especially Hawaii County and Maui County, so that the counties, when they put out these RFPs for waste energy, that they're requesting something that the utility wants, that it's going to be reasonable to assume that the developers of a waste energy plant are going to be able to sell the power to the utility because the utility wants it. Where there's uncertainty, you're not going to get strong proposals for developing a project like that. But I think as an island, we need to figure out a way to close this loop and use some of that waste to produce things that we need. I'm all for recycling, but there's still residuals left. We could use those with all the proper environmental controls. So I would really encourage that waste energy be included in your IRP and that the utilities communicate carefully and closely with the counties who have the responsibility for solid waste. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Richard Hagen. I wanted to mention that when I was at the Peacock conference, they pointed out the IMF, International Monetary Fund. They did somebody did a study for them, and they laid out 5 scenarios. I would suggest that our IRP take a look at that. And just to give you an idea, the 5th scenario was the doomsday scenario. Serious stuff. So how much time we get, we don't really know. What is the price going to be? We don't really know it. But what we should be doing is be considering worst case too. Yeah. And we don't have to feel like the sky is falling, but all we got to do is be smart about it. Now, I also wanted to mention about agriculture a little bit more, food security. You know, the U.S. mainland is our competitor. They're not our friends when we're trying to feed ourselves. And here's why. The U.S. mainland only uses about 2%, gets 2% of its energy from oil. So it's very, very cheap relative to us. And also, when oil prices go up, their electricity prices does not go up. What happens is the folks that are trying to make a living manufacturing food here, if they're competing against stuff that's imported, with electricity embedded in it, become less competitive as oil prices rise. So there goes our food security. So we gotta really pay attention, you know, and I started off by saying, okay, we gotta go for low cost electricity to take care of the most defensive among us, but also its businesses as well. You know, like Pinky's down in Big Hill. Her bill is $3,500 a month. She said if oil prices double, she's out of business. Can you imagine that? No more Pinky's. But there are a whole bunch of other businesses like that. You know, farmers. The bottom line to food security is this: the farmer makes money, the farmer will farm. And that's a problem. As oil prices rise, the farmers will make money. Most of the farmers you see, they're all by here. It's a serious deal, you know. And so the IRP folks, you folks gotta consider the economic effect and cost is very, very important because that's what's going to protect us.
Thank you very much. It would appear that you have the last word. So close. So close.
I wanted to make clear that although we're pushing really hard against HELCO, it's really not against HELCO, it's against equalization. But we have immense respect for everybody involved. Good job, no question. But from what we see, that's what we hope to do.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I appreciate you all coming and staying this long and sharing your best thinking, your best manao with us. What you see us doing is we are taking notes on these flip charts. We also have a scribe in the back of the room who is taking notes on the computer. Normally, I would go to the 2 flip chart people and have you summarize what you've got. Do we have time? I have about 5 minutes. We can go quickly. So I'm going to start with you, Amanda, and then I'm going to come to you, Christine. All right. So what we heard is,
going through every other question, we had where does the oil come from? Do we consider the environment when we look at different energy resources? Vulnerability, we consider and factor in that oil has to be shifted and that the risks with that, the dependence on oil. And related to that was, as we plan for centralized and decentralized, do we consider the vulnerability? Three-part, majority of renewables are IPP. Why doesn't HELCO consider investing in renewables? Line capacity not updated, why? And is climate control plans in IRP? Pursue firm dispatchable power through biomass, which supports agriculture and forestry industry, and geothermal. Energy affects agriculture. The objective is to make the cost the lowest in the state of the coalition, include energy return on investment in IRP, and drive costs below Oahu to bring jobs here. The IRP process should address that geothermal is on lava zone 1 and the risks with that, involve the scientists in this plan. We need to balance state stockholders and ratepayers' obligations. Independent organizations should be involved instead of the PUC in the process. More generation from solar. This IRP process will underestimate the impact the 50 megawatts of geothermal will have, causing delays and other obstacles. Take note of this in the IRP process. For a renewable power source to consider was waste to energy and the suggestion that the utility should work closely with counties on these plans.
The first gentleman was concerned about information given out by HELCO and PUC, worried about sharing and exporting energy from Big Island to Oahu, other islands. The scenario still contains oil, concerned HELCO won't get rid of oil, also concerned about the passing on of the cost to the customers. PUC should ask why consumers pay so much per kilowatt hour. Renewable energy does not address when and how it will be put into place. And why is there a difference in the price from island to island? The gentleman referred to the rate ad in the Tribune and the price of oil in the ads. He referenced the 29% figure, and he had no faith in the POC to correct it. Another gentleman, the next one was, will you not be monetizing the externalities? I believe that was the gentleman who worked with us. And that, looking at the renewable costs, site pollution, environmental issues, will we be looking at those? Will there be any dollar sign attached to the externalities? And he believes this process would look different if it was. With technological advances in solar, why is there not more being accepted? Why is the 10, you referenced 10% max out of the grid? Look at people not working with HELCO, the independent PV systems, and at what point does utility cease to be protected if we act? Why are we not dealing in a free market as much as the IRP indicates HELCO going into geothermal renewables with respect to energy? Why are we not expanding wind? Based on the grid and how it stands now, is the grid maxed out? Why are we not taking advantage of wind resource? Is this a HELCO policy? What is being done about curtailment policy? Wind is a resource HELCO should look at, expanding, and reevaluate policies that curtail IPP for the independent power producers. The amount of wind and adding the power would be an issue. Worried about intermittent power. And how is Maui able to add wind? 70%, I believe, is the max, or the percentage he said it. We at Hawaii are not. What is a reasonable number or low number to accept? He wants a number referencing the 50% stated in the handout. And the scope of the IRP is 5 years. The geothermal plan is out of that scope, and doesn't mean it's not included in the action. He's worried about the impact on the resources and how does IRP look into the environmental programs taken over by another entity. This gentleman would like us to look into new energy devices that control the dispatching of energy freely, or he referenced free energy devices. You mentioned cold fusion and other free energy devices should be considered. Concerned that in Puna, or concerned with Puna, with 50,000 people there, and Oahu trying to take power, energy and health effects that could have.
Genocide.
Concerned about health concerns and safety of geothermal energy. I'll write that. Disagrees with the geothermal and biofuels, but recommends waste path. And does not like the Ina coal project. Have scientists be a part of the review process. HELCO should look into decentralizing rather than centralizing energy projects. Look at the different drivers of energy generation, military, tourism versus look into small energy co-ops. Should look into DC rather than what is existing. Is it best to only be for profit? Should we privatize a hybrid of in controlling energy? Provision for energy generation through building codes, better infrastructure, look at small-scale energy generation. IRP should look at the 5 scenarios of the independent study done, concerned about small businesses, farmers, and the effect of the rising cost of oil, and how it will impact the agriculture and community at large.
And the final comment was, it is not the intention of criticizing HELCO. HELCO is appreciated for all that is done here. It is simply to bring more information to this discussion. Yeah, the International Monetary Fund is also on my notes too, and her notes in the back. So each of us are capturing pieces of this. And we will try to put the notes together and certainly pass them on as we continue to move forward with planners. In the meantime, thank you for being so patient with us. Thank you for allowing me to facilitate. And I would like to turn this over now to Jay Ignacio and give him the last word.
Real brief, I really appreciate you taking the time tonight to come and speak with us. And I also appreciate the manner in which you provided feedback. So polite, supportive, professional, and I really appreciate that. Like Pat alluded to, we're not going to always agree. It would be nice if we had solutions and everybody could agree, but that's probably not going to happen. That's not reality. But I think listening tonight, we as a group probably agree on more things than we disagree on. I think we all tend to agree that we love this island, we love this state, we love this work. We want to do the right thing, and we want to do it collectively. And I really appreciate hearing from you, and I really appreciate in the manner in which you provide feedback. So I want to thank you. I want to really emphasize that. This is a great group, and I truly appreciate your help. Thank you.
If I may ask, I sort of hitchhiked here. I was wondering if anybody's going anywhere near Orchid Land? Anybody going near Orchid Land? You are?